There we go. Now what I'm going to do, that's sort of my main retouching layer. I'll show you what this looks like, sort of a before and after. And we can do that by turning this layer on and off by clicking the little eyeball beside the layer, okay? And it says indicates layer visibility. And we can see what that does, just clicking that on and off, and it just tidies up the face without changing the characteristics of the person's actual face. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command J again and duplicate this layer. And I'm going to rename this Retouch Eyes. There we go. And I want to just get rid of these bags under the eyes, okay? Now, I'm just going to draw this one section out first, and I'm going to pull this down. So if you're wondering what tool that was, it's right up here called, let's get that little icon to show up. And maybe it's not going to show up for us, but it's called the patch tool, and it looks like a little patch. And the way you want to set this up is to have this button selected, patch normal, and have source selected. And that's all you need to show. And I'll do this again, and I'm going to draw around here. And if you'll notice, when I have source selected, it means that I'm dragging the selection out and dropping it onto this part of the skin to copy this part of the skin up underneath the eye. Now when we do this, we get these little marching ants here, and that means that's a selection that we've made. And I'm going to hit Command D, and it gets rid of that selection. So I can see my work a little better. I'm going to grab this area here as well, and just move that over to there, just to sort of smooth that area out a little bit. Then I'm going to go back up into this tool. I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger and just smooth out this darker area. Right in there. Okay, now if you look at this, this starts to look unnatural. So the great thing about layers is, if you look here, it says opacity of 100%. That means that this layer is fully opaque and you can't see the layer underneath it. But using this slider, I can have that underneath layer start to reveal itself underneath this top layer, or the retouch eye layer. And then I can make this completely transparent so we see this layer underneath, or I can just brighten that up just a little bit so it looks natural. We don't completely remove the texture under here, so it's just showing through, but it's not as dark as this. So it creates a nice balance for us. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now what you should do is, I would recommend that you keep a version of this file with the layers for retouching. I would keep that and save that. But I'm going to do one more thing with this layer, and I'm going to duplicate this image right now. So I'm going to come up to Image and Duplicate, and just give this a new name, and I'm going to call it Eyes Transform. Well, I better spell that right, Eyes Transform. and hit OK. So what it's done is it's made a copy of the other image. Now I want to get rid of these layers here. So I'm going to come up to my main menu, which is this little button here. I'm going to open that button and I'm going to select Merge Visible, and it's merged all of my layers together, okay? So that's one thing that's useful to do. And then I'm going to come into Filter, and there we go. And I've chosen the Liquify filter. And this allows me to make some subtle adjustments to a person's face. So if I want to maybe tilt the eyes a little bit, I can tilt the eyes a little bit. And what I think I'll do with this is ever so slightly just tilt them up just a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do. If you want to change the shape of a person's face, you can actually change the shape of their face a little bit. And maybe we'll just change that just a touch. And the chin, so we can do all sorts of incredible things with this filter. And that's all I would do. I wouldn't do anything else to it because we have to maintain the integrity of the person's face, and I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm just going to change my screen view here by clicking that button. And so these are my two images. So this is my copy, eye above, eyes transform, and then this is my retouch image, which is what we started off with. And you'll notice that this image has all the layers. So now I have two copies of this image, and that's the way I like to work, because let's say I mess up this image, which I'm considering my final. Well, now it's hard for me to go back and make corrections. So I always like to archive another version of this image with my layers in it. And we'll just close out this image. There we go. So we have one with layers and then one without. And I would say that's a pretty good basic retouching for someone's face. If you wanted to, and if you felt as though it was an issue, you could remove these wrinkles here and around here. But that is probably something you'd want to discuss with the person. And if you decide to remove those, you know, you could use a combination of this tool, the spot healing brush, and the patch tool. And I think those tools would serve the purpose well of correcting those areas on the person's face. So that's some basic retouching, and I think you'll find that useful for project 3, which is the portrait.